Let's watch the video. A woman drank 1 liter of soy sauce colon cleanse in 2 hours. This is what happened to her brain.
A woman drank a 1 liter soy sauce colon cleanse in 2 hours.
But why would you do this? What would be the benefit of this colon cleanse? And why do you think a liter of soy sauce would achieve it?
This is what happened to her brain. CG is a 39-year-old woman presenting to the emergency room with a rapidly deteriorating mental status. Earlier that day, CG was performing a soy sauce colon cleanse. She was in poor health. She lost 25 pounds over the last 3 weeks. She was iron and vitamin deficient. Her husband states that she had started eating only white bread and canned fish about 6 months ago. And most recently, she was discharged from a psychiatric hospital for what they thought was paranoid schizophrenia. But it wouldn't respond to medicines. Believing that the government had poisoned her, she read somewhere on the internet about a soy sauce colon cleanse, where anyone who could drink 1 liter of soy sauce within 2 hours would be able to evacuate their entire body of toxins.
Well, that seems too good to be true.
This malicious internet information was exploiting gullible people for gags at the expense of those people's lives.
This video, and the stuff that this guy goes over, seems fairly serious, right? Like, it seems presented in a very professional way as well, etc., etc. So why the fuck is the name of the channel Chubbyemu?
Soy sauce is a brew of wheat, soy, and 20% of it is made from salt. The internet was crystal clear. Wherever salt is, the toxic water will flow towards it. So a liter of soy sauce in her colon will 100% draw out all the toxins and expel them from her body. Immediately after finishing the whole liter of soy sauce, CG could feel her heart beating faster. She felt pins and needles
all that
in
sodium,
her hands
dude.
and
Holy
legs.
shit.
She resisted all urge to drink any water.
That's not good.
Over the next 30 minutes, while driving home, CG stops on the side of the road and begins to cry. Her stomach...
holy fuck, you didn't do this at home? Bro, why are you doing a soy sauce colon cleanse not at home? So you have to drive afterward.
...is cramping hard. There's nothing to cry about, she thought, because the toxins were clearly leaving her body. At home now, her vision begins to warp. She's dizzy.
Pain is toxins leaving the body, dude. What is this floor?
Clearly leaving her body. At home.
What the fuck? Is this the carpet? Is that what it looks like? What am I looking at? Obviously, this is like a dramatization. It's not like real footage from the person's home. But what the fuck is this floor?
Now, her vision begins to warp. She's dizzy and confused as she begins to stumble around.
It just looks dirty.
Her husband, oblivious as to what's been happening, is unable to get any coherent words out of her. He lies her down in bed, where she mumbles unintelligibly, while he steps off briefly to use the restroom. A minute later...
If you put those mumbles to a beat, you could get the next SoundCloud rapper. Am I right, fellow kids?
A loud crashing sound and chaos ensues in the other room. Julio runs to the kitchen where he finds CG unconscious on the floor as he calls paramedics.
Unintelligible mumbles. Sounds like Lil Pump.
Scramble to resuscitate
Am I
her
right?
with CPR as she's brought to the emergency room where we are now. A 15 milliliter serving of soy sauce has 2.5 grams of salt. The recommended daily intake is 5.8 grams of salt.
Here we go, dude.
A lethal dose is 40 grams of salt. A gallon of chili juice has 120 grams of salt, and the 1 liter of soy sauce that CG drank in 2 hours has 200 grams of
Jesus.
salt. 5 times the lethal dose. The troll claim on the internet embodies the golden rule of disinformation. It's partially correct at first, and establishing that initial credibility dramatically increases the chances of someone believing the entire thing.
Hey, and that's how conspiracy theories work as well. Most conspiracy theories start out with a tiny little kernel of truth, and then the people with usually malicious intent who create the conspiracy theory around it end up exploiting that in order to sell the rest of the disinformation. What's up, Zarsek? Hope you have a good night as well.
And unfortunately for CG, she believed the entire thing. After the stomach, the soy sauce continues into the small intestines, where it's absorbed into the bloodstream, meaning that the 200 grams of salt began to release into her blood. As salty blood flows throughout CG's body, it begins to suck water out of every single organ. Her kidneys are dehydrating and failing. but that's probably not going to kill her immediately. Her heart is dehydrating and failing because her plasma is expanding. That can kill you immediately, and her heart did go into cardiac arrest while in the ambulance, although that arrest largely in this case can be reversible as CPR can resuscitate her. But what is irreversible?
They say, if you actually, they've run tests on this. I remember reading a study where this lady has like some of the saltiest blood around, and they actually found that through a sample size of about 1,000 conservatives around the United States, their blood was actually a magnitude of 2 to 3 times saltier after Trump lost the election. Anyway.
Can be reversible as CPR can resuscitate her. But what is irreversible is the damage caused on brain shrinkage. As the blood vessels in her brain begin to crush up against each other, she'll begin to stroke. Salty people have shrinking brains as the...
Ha! True! Salty people do indeed have shrinking brains. That's what happens when you're on Twitter for too long, especially. That's why they call it Twitter brain rot. It squeezes your little brain.
water gets sucked out of the contents of the skull and then are put into the blood. 200 grams of salt contains
No wonder League players are so stupid. Well, that's kind of rude. You have to be stupid to play League of Legends to begin with, so I think there's a pre-existing condition there. Wouldn't be covered by insurance, anyway.
80,000 milligrams of sodium. Given that the average sodium content of one 8-gram slice of cooked bacon is 137 milligrams of sodium, then to get to about 80,000 milligrams, you would need to eat about 4.5 kilograms, or about 10 pounds of cooked bacon to match the amount of sodium that CG consumed.
Jesus.
As her mental status
That's like 3/4 of the way to the like it's about a quarter over the usual bacon intake of your average American, I think. Bacon's overrated, by the way. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Bacon is overrated. It's okay here and there, but it doesn't have to be on everything. There was like a period of time, especially on the internet, where people were just putting bacon on everything. And like I get the novelty of it or whatever, but bacon's really not that great. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is. But it's way overhyped.
Somehow remove that salt from her blood. Maybe. This brings us back to tonicity. The water in your body is mostly inside of your cells.
Wait, so what would happen if you took this lady's blood as it existed with all the salt in it and dripped it on like a snail or something? Would it still kill the snail? Or is that not how that works? I wonder.
Soy sauce is 20% salt. If water outside of CG's cells has high sodium and water flows towards where there's sodium, then it means that the solution should be to dilute her blood with less salty water. She's infused with 5 liters of water with 5% dextrose, known as glucose or sugar. Over the next 72 hours, CG begins to stabilize. She opens her eyes to say hello to her husband, but drifts in and out of consciousness. The sodium in her blood is no longer high and everything seems to be okay, but it's not. It's 4 days later. CG opens her eyes. The nurse instructs her to move her arms, but no response. She tries to speak, but words can't come out of her mouth.
She's choking now. Time's up, over, blow. Snap back to reality. Whoop, there goes gravity. Whoops.
Neurology consult reveals a marked dysarthria. Dys meaning wrong, and arthria from ancient Greek arthron meaning articulation. Her ability to articulate words in speech is absent. This was combined with dysphagia, an inability to swallow, and a flaccid quadriplegia. Quadri from Latin quator, denoting the quantity of 4, referring to 2 arms and 2 legs. And plegia from ancient Greek plesin, meaning disabled. Flaccid, meaning that she's floppy with no muscle tone.
Did he say flaccid for flaccid? yeah, going over the etymology of these words is nice, like the breakdown of it. But it's like quadra, from the Latin whatever the fuck meaning quarta, or whatever the fuck meaning 4, derived from the Arabic numeral for 4 pieces, for 4 individual units of a given quantity. Quantity, taken from, like, fuck off, we get it, dude, chill, relax. 2 for the amount of these nuts. That's all I got tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show. Hope you have a good night. Bye. Got everybody in chat. Easy clap. But anyway, did he really say flaccid? I'm sorry.
Meaning disabled. Flaccid, meaning that...
Is it not flaccid? Wait.
Flaccid.
Today I learned.
Flaccid.
Flaccid.
Okay.
Molle.
All right.
Flaccida.
Flaccida. Anyway.
Flaccid.
I guess you could pronounce it both ways, huh? Anyway.
That she's floppy with no muscle tone. None of these are a sign of a stroke. Despite correcting the hypernatremia, it still appears that her brain has been damaged. MRI reveals CG has developed central pontine myelinolysis.
Central.
Lysis, meaning breaking down of myelin, the conductive sheath covering nerve cells. This means that something was wrong during the correction of her blood sodium levels.
Oh no.
When the brain shrinks in acute hypernatremia, it tries to compensate for that water loss. It also draws in other chemicals to help prevent further water loss in an attempt to adapt to its
Squishy brain.
environment. With the blood to prevent organs from
Artemy's
shrinking.
here. Oh shit, I didn't even notice him. Artemy, come here. Come here. What are you eating? He's coming. Yes. You see him? See this boy? Go to where they can see you, you fucking idiot. See this boy. Goodbye.
The brain is already compensated by pumping extra salt into its cells. Then it means that diluted water in the blood will actually swell into the brain,
shit,
causing it to
five-head.
push up against the skull, causing something called cerebral edema. But her brain isn't swollen. On the flip side, if the less salty hypotonic water is used to slowly dilute hypernatremia, but the brain is already compensated by pumping in other chemicals into its cells, those chemicals don't easily clear the brain. This triggers changes inside the brain cells that lead to cell death, cascading into myelinolysis. G's brain still functions, but she's unable to send nerve impulses to the rest of her body, resulting in dysarthria, dysphagia, and flaccid quadriplegia. Almost no normal functioning human could drink nearly half a pound of salt without vomiting, meaning that CG had some quality to her that could separate her mind from the visceral reaction to drinking soy sauce. She may have had celiac disease, a disease centered around a gluten allergy that causes intestinal inflammation, preventing the absorption of nutrients and manifesting extraintestinally as psychosis and delusional disorder. This means that she developed gluten sensitivity sometime in her midlife, became delusional and was misdiagnosed, didn't get the care that she needed in the psychiatric hospital, and was led to internet disinformation, leading her to drink a liter of soy sauce as a supposed colon cleanse, demyelinating parts of her brain and causing her to become quadriplegic. In the emergency room, you often see people who are brought in because of false detox claims. You see people perforate their rectum from an enema that they thought was going to clear them of toxins.
Be kind to your butthole, by the way. Perforate your colon is not a good thing to do, or rectum for that matter. Bottoms know that they need to be kind to it until it's time not to, I suppose.
With proper treatment and follow-up, supportive care from the medical team, her loving husband, and adherence to a gluten-free diet which was appropriate for her medical diagnosis, CG sustained a recovery. Thank you so much for watching.
Nice. So serious. And his name is, and the name of the channel is fucking Chubbyemu. It's a fucking emu!